Good afternoon. Welcome to Convolution Tech. Today we are going to discuss about the full stack development. So in our software development industry, we are having a buzzword like what is this full stack development? So we'll have an idea. We'll get an idea about the full stack development. What are the different technologies we are going to use, and what are the different models? What are the different layers about this full stack development? So so we'll do a presentation. So please go through this presentation. So what is basically a full stack development? When we are talking about full stack development, see, full stack development includes both front end and back end. In other way, we can say the front end as client side and the back end as server side development. So where we are having both the ends involved, the front end as well as the back end, or we can say the client side as well as the server side. So these two things are involved under this full stack development. So if you're having a full stack developer, so you should have the knowledge about both the front end as well as the back end, means client side as well as the server side. So when we are talking about the front end, means what users see, or you can, in short term, we can say it is UI, user interface. So this UI is involved with this, or related to front end. When we are talking about back end, see what happens when behind the scene. So here generally we are going to say like server and databases. These are all falling under your back end part. So we are having two segments. One is your front end segment and the other one is the back end segment. So two segments are there. So front end means the involvement of UI and back end means the involvement of server or and databases. Now if you follow a diagram like this, so we are having a browser. So with the help of browser, actually then we are going to take the help of this front end. Then things are going to go for this backend, and then from the backend we can go for this database. So this is a forward movement. Similarly, we can have a backward movement. Like from there, suppose you want to see some information, so it is a database, then backend server, then front end. Suppose if you want to store something, in that case it will be your front end, then backend, then the database. So this is a small diagrammatic presentation, like the small diagram about this full stack, how full stack works, how full stack development is going to be functional. So we are finding a very small diagram over here. Now when we are talking about full stack, components of full stack, first is of course the front end. How do we develop the front end? We can use all these things. Either HTML, we can go for HTML, CSS, JavaScript, then React, Angular, and Vue.js. So this is the Vue.js. See, these are the tools actually which we can use to develop a front end. When we are talking about back end, we can go for Node.js, Python, Java, PHP, Express.js, Django, and then we can have Spring Boot. So these are the different tools to develop a backend. So with the help of all these tools, any one of these tools, we can go for a backend. With the help of these things, we can develop a front end. So when we're talking about this full stack development, so we should have knowledge about these things, front end as well as the back end. And if we're talking about this database, we can go for this MySQL, PostgreSQL, and then MongoDB. So these are the common databases which we can use as database for storage purpose in full stack. So these are what the different components. So three different components you are finding mainly. One is the front end, back end, and the other one the database. As a front end, we can use any one of these tools depending on the situation. As a back end, we can go for all these technologies, and as a database, for database purpose, we can use any one of these. So this way, we can develop a compact full stack development program. Okay. Now, when we are talking about the diagram, so it is the user interface, the front end framework, then back end logic, and the database. So this way, your full stack development is going to be implemented. So when we are talking about a full stack developer, so that developer should have the knowledge about all these things. So he or she can develop a front end, she or she can go for a concept of back end also, he should have the knowledge of the database. So these are the main components of any full stack related software. Now when we are talking about front end architecture, key concepts, UI, user interface, DOM, document object model, API, application programming interface integration, responsive design. So these are the key the key concepts which you need to take care whenever we are going to develop front end. When we're talking about this diagram, see user interactions, the HTML structure, then CSS styling, then JavaScript. So this is all about your user interaction part. So whenever you are going to develop a front end architecture, we need to take care about all these things: the UI, the user interface, the DOM, document object model, then API integration, application programming interface integration, and then at last we have got something like this responsive design. So how effectively we are developing. So before, we need to take care of all these things whenever we are developing any front end part. Okay. Now let us come to the backend architecture. What is the function? Like request handling, business logic, authentication, and data processing. Suppose as a front end, as a client, you are sending a request. So this part duty is what? To handle the request. The business logic, the rules, some logic if you want to apply, then the business logic part. Then authentication. Suppose you want to authenticate some data, so that authentication part and data processing. So these are very important things, and these are going to be taken care in our backend architecture of full stack development. Now, when we talk, so diagrammatically, if you see the client request, the API layer, business logic, then database queries, then responses. So this is the way actually this backend architecture is going to be function. And whenever we are going to develop any backend architecture under full stack developments, we need to take care of all these things. These are the key roles. These are the key players actually for a successful full stack development. Now let us come to the another part. This is also a very important one, the database layer, where we are going to. So these are what? Some different SQL packages, like database packages like MySQL, Postgres, then there's NoSQL like MongoDB and all these things. So these are the different database packages. Depending on the situation, we are going to use any one of them, and the main purpose of these database layer is to store the data. For any kind of storage purpose, what we are going to do, we are going to use this database layer. So if we talk about the diagram, the backend part means the database queries and data storage. So suppose we are having some data in a database, so that is going to be, so we are going to store something, so you can go for a requesting process. So you want to store some data. Similarly, if you want to see something, so response phase. So this way request response phase are going to function. So for that, this database layer is going to play a big role. So this is also another important layer for a successful full stack development process. Now full stack technologies. So these are the different technologies. So to develop a front end, we can go for either HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React. If you talk about the backend, Node.js, Express.js, some good examples about the backend technologies. If you talk about database, then MongoDB, MySQL, these are some important database packages we have. Now, depending on the situation, we are going to use them. Now, version control can be done with the help of Git or GitHub. Then deployment. How can we development? We can go for this AWS or Docker or this Netlify. So these are the different popular deployment tools or platforms we can say where we can implement or we can deploy software. So this is, so now this is another example like the Mon stack. One example I'm sharing with you. In the Mon stack, what we are going to do, we are going to use this kind of technologies like the MongoDB, Express, React, and Node.js. Now, what is the advantage? Single language, fast, scalable, and modern. Okay, so these are some advantages about the Mon stack technologies. So Mon stack examples I have shared, and some advantages also you are finding. Now, diagram, if you see React, then Express, Node.js, and MongoDB. React, with the help of React, we can develop the UI part. So the backend can be handled with the help of this Express and Node.js. And if you talk about the database part, we can go for this MongoDB. So this is a good example I'm sharing with you as a Mon stack example. Now, development workflow, this is the way actually. First of all, we have to go for the designing part of UI, then write the APIs, then connect to the database, then test, and then deploy. So this is a small cycle which we have to follow for full stack development workflow process. The design, develop APIs, database integration, testing, and deployment. So this way, what we have seen a very small thing about this a small presentation about this full stack. What is this full stack and what are the things we have to do in case of full stack development? Now, if you talk about career scope, obviously full stack developer, front end developer, back end developer, and DevOps engineer. So these are what some job roles are available in the market after doing anything in full stack, after learning this full stack concept. You can become a full stack developer, you can become a front end developer, you can go for a back end developer, or you can go for a DevOps engineers. Okay. Now, what are the advantages of this full stack development? End-to-end project control. So, entire thing which you have seen, there are different layers. So, end-to-end project control is there. Then high demand. Obviously, at present, IT industry, this is in high demand. Then versatile skill set. Okay, versatile skill set. So, as a full stack developer, you should have this versatile skill set you have. Then better project understanding. In a better way, we can understand the projects and all these things. So these are some good advantages. There are some advantages about this full stack development. So in summary, we can say this one full stack means front end, back end, and database. User frameworks like this MERN, Min, and LAMP. Use frameworks and essential for modern web apps. So if you want to develop any modern web apps, in that case, this particular process is very, very important. So this is a very small presentation about this full stack development. We'll just go through with this to get a good idea about this. What is this full stack development? Thank you.